Jake Martinez wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag as he heard the heavy footsteps approaching his workshop. The sound echoed through the metal corridors of Frontier Station 47, mixing with the usual hum of life support systems and distant chatter from the trading deck. He looked up from the broken plasma regulator he had been fixing and saw a tall, blue-skinned alien walking toward him. The alien moved carefully, like someone carrying a heavy burden. His four arms hung at his sides, and his large yellow eyes showed deep worry. Jake had seen this species before. They called themselves the Vortani, and they were known as peaceful traders throughout this part of the galaxy. "Human mechanic Jake Martinez?" the alien asked in broken English. His voice sounded tired and desperate. "That's me," Jake replied, setting down his tools. "What can I do for you?" The alien stepped closer. "My name is Corvin. I need help." "Big help? Others say you fix things others cannot fix." Jake nodded. It was true. He had built a reputation on Frontier Station 47 for being able to repair almost anything. His workshop was filled with strange alien devices that other mechanics had given up on. Where others saw impossible problems, Jake saw puzzles waiting to be solved. "What kind of help?" Jake asked. Corvin gestured toward the main docking bay. "I have something. Very old, very broken. My people say it cannot be fixed, but I hear humans see things differently." Jake followed Corvin through the station's winding corridors. Frontier Station 47 was not a pretty place. It was built from salvaged ship parts and mining equipment, creating a maze of different architectural styles. The air recyclers worked overtime to keep the atmosphere breathable, and the gravity generators made occasional hiccups that left everyone feeling slightly dizzy. They passed the main trading area where dozens of alien species bartered for goods, information, and passage to other worlds. Jake saw the usual crowd of smugglers, merchants, and travelers who made their living on the edge of human space. Most paid him no attention. To them, he was just another human trying to make a living in the vast galaxy. The docking bay was enormous, designed to accommodate ships of various sizes and configurations. Most of the berths were filled with small trading vessels and personal transports. But at the far end of the bay, Jake saw something that made him stop walking. A massive shape sat in the largest docking berth, covered by a tattered cargo tarp. Whatever was underneath had to be at least 12 feet tall and nearly as wide. Jake could see the outline of what looked like arms and legs, but the proportions seemed wrong for any species he knew. "What is that?" Jake asked. Corvin pulled away the tarp with all four of his arms. What Jake saw underneath took his breath away. It was clearly some kind of mechanical warrior, but unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The body was humanoid, but much larger than any human. Strange crystalline plates covered its surface, each one inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and change as Jake watched them. Energy conduits ran along its arms and legs like glowing veins, but most of them were dark and lifeless. The machine's head was elegant and angular, with two large eye sockets that currently held only darkness. Its hands were proportioned like a human's, but scaled up, suggesting it was designed for both delicate work and incredible strength. "This is Guardian Unit," Corvin explained. "Last protector of my homeworld before the burning came." "Guardian Unit?" Jake walked slowly around the massive machine. "I've never heard of anything like this." "Very old technology," Corvin continued. "Made by the first ones, long before any current species reached the stars. My people found it in the deep, ruins after our world died. It protected the survivors during the evacuation, but then it stopped working." Jake noticed scorch marks on the Guardian's armor and what looked like battle damage. Several of the crystalline plates were cracked, and some of the energy conduits had been completely severed. "How long has it been broken?" Jake asked. 50 standard years, Corvin replied. "I have taken it to the best mechanics in 12 systems, Rigelian tech specialists, Andromedan cyber engineers, even the machine priests of Kepler Prime, all say the same thing. Dead technology. Cannot be repaired. Jake ran his hand along one of the Guardian's arms. The metal felt warm to the touch, and he could swear he felt a faint vibration, as if something deep inside was still trying to work. Why bring it to me? I'm just a human mechanic on a frontier station. Corvin's yellow eyes brightened slightly. Because humans fix things differently. Other species, they follow rules, use standard procedures. But humans, you make new ways. You see what others cannot see. Before Jake could respond, he heard familiar footsteps behind him. He turned to see Lisa Cooper, the station administrator, walking toward them with her usual expression of mild annoyance. Lisa was a small woman in her 40s who had been running Frontier Station 47 for the past 8 years. She had seen every kind of trouble the galaxy could throw at a frontier outpost, and she had developed a healthy suspicion of anything unusual. "Jake, what are you doing?" she asked, eyeing the massive Guardian with obvious concern. "Just looking at a potential repair job," Jake replied. Lisa shook her head. "Absolutely not. Do you have any idea how dangerous alien military technology can be? We've got enough problems keeping this station running without you playing with ancient war machines." "It's not a war machine," Corvin protested. "Guardian is protector. It saves lives, not takes them." "That's what they all say," Lisa replied, "until something goes wrong and half the station gets vaporized." Jake looked back at the Guardian. Something about it called to him. Maybe it was the way the damaged armor still held traces of elegant design. Maybe it was the careful way the energy conduits were arranged, like the circulatory system of some impossible creature. Or maybe it was simply the challenge of fixing something that dozens of better qualified mechanics had declared unfixable. "What's your offer?" Jake asked Corvin. "Jake, don't even think about it," Lisa warned. Corvin reached into his robes and pulled out a small bag. "All the credits I have. 20,000 standard units, plus salvage rights to my cargo ship when I die." "When you die?" Jake asked. "I am old, even for my people. This Guardian is all I have left of my homeworld. If it cannot be awakened, I have no purpose left." Jake looked at the desperate alien, then at the massive Guardian, then at Lisa's disapproving face. 20,000 credits was more money than he usually made in a year. But more than that, he could see the hope in Corvin's eyes, and he understood what it meant to be the last Guardian of something precious. "I'll take a look at it," Jake said finally. "But I'm not making any promises." Lisa threw up her hands in frustration. "Fine. But when this thing explodes and takes out half the station, don't come crying to me." As Lisa walked away muttering, "About reckless humans," Corvin grabbed Jake's hand with 2 of his 4 arms. "Thank you, Jake Martinez. You give old alien hope when hope was gone." Jake nodded, already studying the Guardian's complex systems and wondering what secrets lay hidden in its ancient technology. He had no idea that his decision would change not just his life, but the fate of the entire galaxy. Jake spent the first day just looking at the Guardian. He walked around it dozens of times, studying every detail of its construction. The machine was beautiful in a way that made no sense to him. Most alien technology he had seen was purely functional, built for efficiency rather than art. But the Guardian looked like someone had tried to capture the idea of a perfect protector in metal and crystal. On the second day, Jake began taking careful scans with his diagnostic equipment. What he found confused him more than anything he had ever worked on. The Guardian's internal systems showed energy signatures that should not exist. Some parts read as purely mechanical, others as biological, and still others as something completely different that his scanners could not identify. "This is impossible," Jake muttered to himself as he studied the readouts. "How can something be mechanical and organic at the same time?" Corvin sat nearby, watching Jake work with patient hope. The old alien had barely left the docking bay since bringing the Guardian to the station. He ate simple meals and slept on a cargo crate, never wanting to be far from his broken protector. Other mechanics say same thing, Corvin offered quietly. They say Guardian breaks rules of how machines should work. Jake nodded, running another deep scan. Maybe that's the problem. Everyone's been trying to fix it like a normal machine. But what if it's not a normal machine? By the third day, Jake had opened several access panels and was studying the Guardian's internal structure. What he found inside amazed him. Instead of standard circuits and processors, he saw something that looked almost like a nervous system. Crystalline pathways branched and merged like neurons, carrying faint traces of energy that pulsed in complex patterns. "It's like a brain," Jake said, more to himself than to Corvin. "A mechanical brain that thinks like a living thing." Jake had worked on adaptive AI systems before, but nothing like this. Most artificial intelligence followed programmed pathways and logical decision trees. The Guardian's mind seemed designed to grow and learn and feel in ways that normal computers could not. As Jake worked deeper into the Guardian's systems, he began to understand why other mechanics had failed. They had tried to repair the machine using standard approaches, replacing damaged components with generic parts and rewriting corrupted code with basic programming. But the Guardian was not built to work with standard parts or simple programming. You need original components, Jake realized. But more than that, you need the components to be connected in just the right way, like rebuilding a living nervous system. The problem was that many of the Guardian's original components were destroyed or missing. Jake would have to find ways to replace them with parts that could integrate with the Guardian's unique hybrid technology. This was where Jake's human approach made the difference. Instead of looking for exact replacements, he began to experiment with creative solutions. He took a damaged crystalline processor and bridged it with human neural network chips, creating a hybrid system that could handle both mechanical and organic-style processing. For the severed energy conduits, Jake used a combination of alien power cables and human fiber optic networks, allowing both electrical and light-based signals to flow through the same pathways. When he needed to replace a damaged memory core, he combined 3 different alien storage systems with human quantum drives, creating something that could hold both data and what seemed like actual experiences. "What are you doing?" Lisa Cooper asked on the 4th day, finding Jake elbow-deep in the Guardian's chest cavity. "Fixing it," Jake replied, not looking up from his work. "Or trying to. With human components? Jake, you're mixing technologies that were never designed to work together. You could cause a cascade failure that destroys half the station." Jake finally looked at her, his face covered with grease and exhaustion. "Lisa, I've been thinking about this for days. Every other mechanic who worked on this Guardian tried to fix it using pure alien technology. But what if the Guardian was designed to adapt? What if it's supposed to integrate with whatever technology it encounters?" Lisa frowned. "That's a pretty big what if." "Look at this," Jake said, pointing to a section of the Guardian's internal structure. "See how these crystalline pathways branch and connect? They look just like human neural networks, but scaled up and made from alien materials. What if the original builders designed the Guardian to work with any sufficiently advanced species? And, you think humans qualify as sufficiently advanced?" Lisa asked skeptically. "Maybe not advanced," Jake said with a tired smile, "but definitely creative." On the 5th day, Jake made a breakthrough. As he connected the last of his hybrid components, he noticed something strange. The Guardian's energy patterns were beginning to synchronize with his own biorhythms. Every time Jake touched the machine, its internal systems pulsed a little brighter. "Corvin," Jake called to the waiting alien. "Come here and touch the Guardian's arm." Corvin approached carefully and placed one of his 4 hands on the Guardian's forearm. Nothing happened. The energy patterns remained unchanged. "Interesting," Jake murmured. "It only responds to me." "What does this mean?" Corvin asked. Jake was not sure, but he had an idea. He had read about ancient alien technologies that required some kind of psychic or emotional connection to function. What if the Guardian needed more than just technical repairs? What if it needed someone who cared about it as more than just a machine? That night, Jake did something that other mechanics would have thought crazy. Instead of just working on the Guardian in silence, he began talking to it. "I know you've been broken for a long time," Jake said as he carefully adjusted. A neural pathway connection. 50 years is a long time to be dead. I bet you remember when you were protecting Corvin's people. I bet you remember watching their world burn and knowing you couldn't save it. Jake paused in his work, looking up at the Guardian's dark eye sockets. That must have been hard. I've never had to watch a whole world die, but I know what it's like to lose something you were supposed to protect. My dad gave me his old workshop on Earth before he died, told me to fix things and help people. I tried to keep it running, but the big corporations moved in and I couldn't compete. Had to sell everything and come out here to the frontier. As Jake continued working and talking, something remarkable began to happen. The Guardian's energy patterns became more stable and organized. Systems that had been completely dead for decades began showing faint signs of activity. "Maybe that's why I understand you," Jake continued, installing a new hybrid memory core. "We're both protectors who couldn't protect what mattered most. But that doesn't mean we stop trying, right? That doesn't mean we give up." By the 6th day, Jake was exhausted but excited. Every system he repaired seemed to wake up more of the Guardian's consciousness. Energy now flowed through most of the machine's body, and complex patterns of light pulsed beneath its crystalline armor. "I think it's almost ready," Jake told Corvin, "but I need to try something." Jake placed both hands on the Guardian's chest, where he had installed the main neural processing hub. He closed his eyes and tried to project every feeling of hope and determination he could manage. "Come on," he whispered. "You've been sleeping long enough. Corvin needs you. The galaxy needs protectors who actually care about protecting people." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, deep within the Guardian's chest, Jake felt a pulse like a heartbeat. The machine's eyes suddenly blazed to life with brilliant blue energy, and its massive frame began to move. The Guardian sat up slowly, its head turning to look at Jake with ancient eyes that now burned with new purpose and gratitude. The Guardian's blue eyes focused on Jake with an intensity that made him step backward. For a moment, the massive machine simply stared at him, as if trying to understand what it was seeing. Then it spoke, and its voice was nothing like Jake had expected. Instead of the cold, mechanical tone he had imagined, the Guardian's voice was warm and filled with emotion. It spoke in perfect English, though Jake was certain no one had programmed it to know human languages. "You brought me back," the Guardian said, its voice carrying wonder and gratitude. "After so long in the darkness, you gave me light again." Jake found himself speechless. He had hoped to repair the machine, but he had never expected it to be so clearly alive and aware. Corvin fell to his knees, all 4 of his arms spread wide in what Jake recognized as a gesture of deep respect among the Vortani people. "Great. Guardian," Corvin said, his voice shaking with emotion, "you have returned to us." The Guardian turned its attention to Corvin, and its expression seemed to soften. "Old friend, you carried me across the stars when I could not carry myself. Your loyalty has not been forgotten." Then the Guardian looked back at Jake. "But it was not loyalty that awakened me. It was something more." "I don't understand," Jake said, still trying to process that he was having a conversation with a 12-foot-tall alien war machine. The Guardian slowly stood up, its massive frame moving, with surprising grace. "In all my centuries of existence, no being has ever approached me as you did. Others saw me as a tool to be commanded or a weapon to be controlled. You saw me as someone who needed help." Jake felt uncomfortable with the Guardian's intense attention. "I just did what any mechanic would do. I fixed what was broken." "No," the Guardian said firmly. "You did what no mechanic has ever done. You spoke to me. You shared your own pain to ease mine. You treated me not as a machine, but as a being, worthy of compassion. The Guardian knelt down, bringing its massive head closer to Jake's level. I am Defender Prime Unit Sentinel, created by the first ones to protect those who show wisdom and courage. You may call me Sen, if you wish. Sen, Jake repeated, testing the name. Okay, Sen, I'm glad you're working again. Corvin has been waiting. A long time to see you awake. Indeed he has, Sen agreed. But there is something you must understand, Jake Martinez. When you healed not just my systems, but my spirit, you triggered protocols that have been dormant for millennia. What kind of protocols? Jake asked, though he had a feeling he was not going to like the answer. Sen stood up to its full height. Again. By the ancient laws that govern my existence, I hereby declare a life bond with you, Jake Martinez. You are now my chosen commander, and I am bound to serve and protect you until my systems finally fail. Wait, what? Jake said, backing away. I don't want to command anyone. I just wanted to help fix you. That is precisely why the bond was formed, Sen replied. True commanders do not seek power over others. They seek to help others find their own strength. Corvin looked up at both of them with amazement. In all the stories of my people, I have never heard of a guardian forming a life bond. This is beyond legend. Jake ran his hands through his hair, feeling overwhelmed. Look, Sen, I appreciate the thought, but I'm just a mechanic. I fix things and try to mind my own business. I don't know anything about commanding ancient alien protectors. You know more than you think, Sen said gently. You showed patience when others showed frustration. You showed creativity when others followed rigid procedures. Most importantly, you showed compassion when others showed only ambition. Before Jake could respond, the sound of running footsteps echoed through the docking bay. Lisa Cooper burst through the entrance, followed by Marcus Webb, the station's security chief. Marcus was a big man who had served in the human military before taking the job on Frontier Station 47. His hand rested on the plasma pistol at his side. What in the hell is going on here? Marcus demanded, staring up at the now active Guardian. The whole station is picking up energy readings off the charts. It's okay, Jake said quickly. I got it working again. Everything's under control. Under control? Lisa said, her voice rising. Jake, that thing is putting out enough energy to power a small city, and our sensors are detecting weapon systems that could level half the station. Sen turned its attention to the two newcomers. Be at ease. I am Defender Prime Unit Sentinel. I mean no harm to this station or its inhabitants. Marcus drew his weapon, though he kept it pointed at the floor. Jake, step away from that thing. We don't know what it's capable of. I know exactly what I am capable of, Sen said calmly. I am capable of protecting those who cannot protect themselves. I am capable of standing against those who would harm the innocent. And I am capable of serving my chosen commander with absolute loyalty. Chosen commander? Lisa asked, looking at Jake with growing alarm. Jake sighed. It's complicated. No, it is simple, Sen corrected. Jake Martinez has proven himself worthy of Guardian protection through his actions and his character. The life. Bond has been formed according to ancient law. Marcus kept his weapon ready. Jake, you need to think about what this means. If word gets out that a human controls one of these Guardian things, every government and military force in this sector is going to want a piece of you. I don't control anyone, Jake protested. I just fixed a broken machine that turned out to be more than a machine. The distinction will not matter to them, Sen said. Marcus Webb is correct. My awakening will attract attention from those who see power as something to be taken rather than earned. As if to prove Sen's point, the station's communication system suddenly activated. Lisa's personal communicator buzzed with an incoming priority message. This is Ambassador Thane of the Galactic Council, a cold reptilian voice announced through the speakers. We have detected the activation of a Class A Guardian unit in your system. By council authority, this unit must be immediately transferred to our custody for evaluation and containment. Lisa looked at Jake with a mixture of anger and worry. Jake, what have you gotten us into? Sen placed one massive hand gently on Jake's shoulder. Do not fear, my friend. Whatever comes, we will face it together. That is what the life bond means. Jake looked up at the towering guardian, then at the worried faces of his friends, then at Corvin, who still knelt nearby with tears of joy in his large yellow eyes. He had thought he was just fixing a broken machine to help an old alien and earn some credits. Instead, he had apparently awakened something that would change everything. So what happens now? Jake asked. Sen's blue eyes blazed brighter. Now, we show the galaxy what it truly means to be a guardian. And perhaps, if we are fortunate, we show them what it means to be human. Outside the station, Jake could see the first of many ships beginning to appear on the long-range sensors. Word was spreading fast, and everyone wanted to see the human who had awakened a legend. 3 days after Sen's awakening, Frontier Station 47 had become the most watched location in the galaxy. Ships arrived hourly, bringing diplomats, scientists, military officers, and curious traders who wanted to see the awakened Guardian for themselves. Jake had barely slept since Ambassador Thane's first transmission. The reptilian diplomat had arrived aboard a massive council cruiser, accompanied by what seemed like half the Galactic Council's bureaucracy. Now Jake found himself sitting in the station's small conference room, facing beings who controlled the fate of entire star systems. Ambassador Thane was a tall, scaled creature with cold yellow eyes and a voice that sounded like grinding metal. He wore the formal robes of his office, but Jake could see the outline of armor underneath. Everything about the ambassador suggested barely controlled aggression. "Mr. Martinez," Thane said, his forked tongue flicking out as he spoke, "you have created a significant problem for galactic stability." "I fixed a broken machine," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't know it would cause all this trouble." "A broken machine?" Thane's laugh was harsh and humorless. "You awakened a Guardian unit, one of the most powerful weapons ever created. Such power cannot be left in the hands of a primitive human mechanic." Sen stood behind Jake's chair, its massive presence filling half the conference room. "I am not a weapon ambassador. I am a protector, and Jake Martinez is not primitive. He showed wisdom that your advanced civilizations have forgotten." Thane ignored Sen completely, speaking only to Jake. "The Guardian will be transferred to Council custody within 24 hours. There, it will be properly studied and controlled by those qualified to handle such responsibility." "With respect, Ambassador," Jake said, "Sen doesn't belong to anyone. It's a free being that makes its own choices." "It is a machine," Thane snapped. "A dangerous machine that responds to your commands. Do you have any idea what would happen if hostile forces gained control of Guardian technology?" Before Jake could answer, the conference room door opened. Lisa Cooper entered, followed by a woman Jake didn't recognize. The stranger was tall and confident, wearing the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Ambassador Thane," the woman said with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes, "I am Senator Rebecca Hayes, representing Earth's government. I believe there has been a misunderstanding." Thane's scaled face showed annoyance. "There is no misunderstanding, Senator. The Guardian represents a clear threat to galactic peace. It must be contained." "The Guardian has committed no hostile acts," Senator Hayes replied calmly. "Under galactic law, Mr. Martinez and his partner have done nothing wrong." "Partner?" Thane's voice rose. "You cannot be serious. Humans have been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. You lack the wisdom to handle such power." Jake felt anger building in his chest. "Maybe we lack wisdom, but at least we don't try to steal other people's friends." Sen placed a gentle hand on Jake's shoulder. "Peace, my friend. Anger will not solve this problem." The tension in the room was broken by another voice speaking over the communication system. This voice was different from Thane's, deeper and more menacing. "This is Commander Varex of the Hegemon Battle Fleet. We have entered this system under the authority of the Hegemon Empire. The Guardian unit will surrender itself immediately, or we will take it by force." Through the conference room's window, Jake could see new ships appearing in space around the station. These were not the sleek diplomatic vessels of the Council. These were warships, their hulls bristling with weapons and their engines glowing with barely contained power. Senator Hayes activated her communicator. "Commander Varex, this is Senator Hayes of Earth. Frontier Station 47 is neutral territory. Your fleet has no authority here." Commander Varex's laugh was cold and brutal. "Senator, your little human government has no power to stop us. We have come for the Guardian, and we will have it. Stand aside, or be destroyed with the rest." Jake looked around the conference room at the faces of beings who controlled vast interstellar civilizations. They all looked afraid. Even Ambassador Thane seemed shaken by the Hegemon fleet's arrival. "How many ships?" Jake asked quietly. Lisa checked her sensors. 47 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. "Jake, they could turn this station into dust in minutes." Sen stepped forward, its blue eyes blazing brighter. "Then perhaps it is time to remind the galaxy why Guardians were created." "No," Jake said firmly. "I won't let you fight an entire fleet. There has to be another way." "There is no other way." Commander Varex's voice came over the speakers again. "You have 1 hour to surrender the Guardian. After that, we begin bombardment." Ambassador Thane stood up abruptly. "This has gone too far. I am ordering immediate evacuation of all Council personnel." "You're running away?" Jake asked, surprised. "I am avoiding unnecessary casualties," Thane replied coldly. "The Hegemon Empire has wanted Guardian technology for centuries. They will not be stopped by diplomacy." As Thane and his delegation hurried out of the conference room, Senator Hayes moved closer to Jake. "Mr. Martinez, I need you to understand something. Earth cannot protect you from the Hegemon fleet. Our nearest warships are weeks away." Jake nodded. He had known this moment would come eventually. From the instant Sen had awakened, he had understood that his quiet life as a frontier mechanic was over. "What do you recommend?" Jake asked. "Surrender the Guardian," Senator Hayes said quietly. "It's the only way to save the station, and everyone on it." Sen knelt down beside Jake's chair. "My friend, I will not see innocent people die because of me. If you order me to surrender, I will obey." Jake looked at Sen's ancient, wise face and saw something there that broke his heart. The Guardian was prepared to sacrifice itself to save others, just as it had been programmed to do millennia ago. "No," Jake said finally. "I didn't bring you back to life just to watch you become a slave again." "Then what do you propose?" Senator Hayes asked. Jake stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Hegemon fleet surrounding the station. 47 warships against 1 Guardian and a rundown frontier station. The odds were impossible. But as Jake studied the enemy ships, he began to notice something interesting. They were maintaining their distance, staying well outside weapon range. For an empire that claimed it would take the Guardian by force, they seemed remarkably cautious. "Sen," Jake said slowly, "how dangerous are you really?" "More dangerous than they know," Sen replied, "but not dangerous enough to fight an entire fleet alone." Jake smiled for the first time in days. "Maybe you don't have to fight them alone. Maybe there's something else we can do." "Jake," Lisa warned, "whatever you're thinking, remember that we have 3,000 people on this station." "I'm thinking about all of them," Jake said, "and I'm thinking about something Sen said when it first woke up. About showing the galaxy what it really means to be a Guardian." Commander Varex's voice crackled over the speakers again. 30 minutes remain. Surrender the Guardian or face the consequences." Jake looked at Sen, then at the worried faces around him. Sen, do you trust me? With my existence, Sen replied without hesitation. Then let's show them what humans and Guardians can do when they work together. Jake had 15 minutes left when he made his decision. Instead of preparing for battle or surrender, he asked Sen to do something that surprised everyone in the conference room. I want you to send a message, Jake said. Not to the hegemon, fleet, but to the entire galaxy. Sen tilted its massive head. What kind of message? The truth, Jake replied. About what Guardians really are and why they were created. Sen's blue eyes brightened with understanding. You want me to activate the archive protocol? I don't know what that means, but if it tells the truth, then yes. Senator Hayes looked confused. Jake, what are you doing? We need to focus on the immediate threat. This is how we deal with the immediate threat, Jake said. Sen, can you broadcast to every receiver in the galaxy? Yes, Sen replied. But activating the archive protocol will also awaken something that has been sleeping for millennia. What will it awaken? Jake asked. Other Guardian installations, Sen said quietly. Across the galaxy, there are ancient sites that were built by my creators. They have been dormant since the first ones died. But if I send the activation signal, they will respond. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How many installations? I do not know exactly. Perhaps 100, perhaps 1,000. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. Jake, you could be unleashing something that changes the entire balance of power in the galaxy. Maybe that's what the galaxy needs, Jake said. Sen, what happens if these installations wake up? They will broadcast the true history of our Guardians, Sen explained. They will show the galaxy what my creators intended and why they built us to protect rather than conquer. Commander Varex's voice interrupted their conversation. 5 minutes remain. Prepare for bombardment. Jake looked around the room at the frightened faces of his friends and colleagues. Outside, the hegemon fleet was moving into attack position. Soon, weapons that could destroy planets would be turned on a simple frontier trading station. Do it, Jake said to Sen. Send the message. Sen stood to its full height and placed both hands on the conference room's communication console. Immediately, every screen and speaker on the station activated with a brilliant blue light. Citizens of the galaxy, Sen's voice echoed through space, reaching every inhabited world and ship within 1,000 light years. I am Defender Prime Unit Sentinel, awakened after millennia of sleep. What you are about to see is the true history of my people and my purpose. The blue light formed into holographic images that showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago. Jake saw beautiful worlds filled with beings he didn't recognize, civilizations that had reached heights of art and science that modern species could barely imagine. My creators were called the First Ones, Sen continued. They were not warriors or conquerors. They were teachers and protectors who believed that every species deserved the chance to grow and flourish. The holographic images changed, showing the construction of the first Guardians. Jake watched in amazement as the ancient builders crafted each Guardian with care and love, programming them not just with combat abilities but with compassion and wisdom. We were created to protect civilizations that showed promise, Sen explained. Not to rule them, but to guard them against those who would destroy them for being different or weak. The images shifted again, showing the galaxy under attack by forces that Jake recognized with horror. The attacking ships bore the same insignia as the hegemon fleet that now surrounded the station. The first ones were destroyed by an empire that believed strength gave them the right to rule over others, Sen said. That empire called itself the hegemon, and it spread across the galaxy like a plague, destroying everything beautiful and unique they encountered. In the holographic display, Jake watched the last of the first ones make their final stand, their guardian protectors fighting desperately to save the last refugees of their civilization. We failed to save our creators, Sen said, and Jake could hear genuine sadness in the Guardian's voice. But before they died, they programmed us with a final mission. We were to sleep until worthy successors arose, beings who shared their values of protection and compassion. The holographic images showed the Guardians entering their long sleep, waiting for someone who would understand their true purpose. For millions of years, we waited, Sen continued. Many beings found us, but they saw only weapons to be controlled. They could not awaken us because they did not understand what we were truly meant to be. The display changed to show Jake working on Sen in the docking bay, his patient care and genuine concern for the broken Guardian's well-being. Until Jake Martinez showed me something I had not seen since my creators died, Sen said. He showed me what it means to fix something not for power or profit, but simply because it needed to be fixed. He spoke to me not as a tool to be used, but as a being worthy of compassion. Across the galaxy, the ancient Guardian installations that Sen had mentioned began to activate. On worlds that had been archaeological mysteries for centuries, massive structures suddenly blazed to life, adding their voices to Sen's broadcast. This is why the life bond was formed, Sen explained. Jake Martinez embodies the values my creators hope to see again in the galaxy. Compassion over conquest, repair over destruction, protection of the weak rather than exploitation. Commander Varex's voice crackled over the communication system, but now it sounded uncertain rather than threatening. This changes nothing. The Guardian will still be surrendered to Hegemon authority. No, Sen replied, turning its attention to the Hegemon fleet. Commander Varex, you serve the same empire that murdered my creators and destroyed the most beautiful civilization the galaxy has ever known. You will not claim me as a weapon to continue their work. On the holographic display, Jake saw something that made his breath catch. The images showed the final battle between the First Ones and the ancient Hegemon Empire, and he could clearly see Commander Varex's own species among the attackers. Your people helped destroy mine, Sen said to the Hegemon commander. Will you now destroy another species that shows the same promise my creators once did? For the first time since the crisis began, Commander Varex was silent. Around the station, Jake could see the Hegemon fleet holding position, but no longer advancing toward attack formation. Then, something unexpected happened. One of the Hegemon warships broke formation and moved away from the fleet. Then another. And another. What's happening? Jake asked. Sen's holographic display now showed the interior of Hegemon ships, where crew members were watching the broadcast and seeing the true history of their empire for the first time. Many of them looked shocked and horrified. The truth has power, Sen replied. Many of these beings joined the Hegemon military believing they were bringing order to chaos. Now they see they have been serving the heirs of galactic destroyers. Commander. Varex's voice returned, but now it was filled with uncertainty and pain. Guardian, what you show, it cannot be true. It is true, Sen said gently. Your empire has hidden this history for millions of years, but the truth has a way of surviving, even when those in power try to bury it. Half the Hegemon fleet had now broken formation. Some ships were jumping to hyperspace, others were broadcasting messages of surrender or defection. Commander Varex, Jake said, speaking directly to the Hegemon leader for the first time, you have a choice. You can continue serving an empire built on lies and destruction, or you can choose a different path. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the station's life support systems. Then Commander Varex spoke again, his voice heavy with the weight of terrible knowledge. Guardian, he said slowly, what would you have us do? Jake had never expected to find himself in the position of accepting the surrender of an entire battle fleet, but that was exactly what happened over the next hour. Commander Varex, faced with the undeniable truth about his empire's origins, made a choice that would echo throughout the galaxy. I formally surrender my fleet to Guardian protection, Varex announced over open channels. We renounce our allegiance to the Hegemon Empire and request sanctuary under the ancient laws of the First Ones. Sen looked at Jake, waiting for guidance. Jake realized that, once again, a moment that should have been handled by diplomats and politicians was falling to a simple mechanic from a frontier station. "Commander Varex," Jake said, "before we can accept your surrender, I need to know something. Are you willing to protect others instead of conquering them?" "After what we have seen today," Varex replied, "I do not think my people can continue on the path we have followed. We have been weapons of destruction for too long. Perhaps it is time to learn what it means to be protectors." The political implications hit Jake like a physical blow. In the space of a few hours, he had gone from being an unknown mechanic to accidentally creating the first human-led interstellar alliance. The remaining loyal hegemon ships had fled the system, but the ships that stayed represented nearly half of one of the galaxy's most powerful fleets. Ambassador Thane's voice crackled over the communication system from his fleeing council ship. "This is an illegal usurpation of council authority. The Galactic Council does not recognize any alliance formed under these circumstances." "The Galactic Council can go file a complaint," Jake replied, surprising himself with his boldness. "We're not trying to overthrow anyone. We're just trying to protect people who need protecting." Senator Hayes, who had remained on the station during the crisis, looked at Jake with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Jake, do you understand what you've just done? You've essentially created a new government." "I haven't created anything," Jake protested. "I just asked Sen to tell the truth, and some people decided they liked the truth better than the lies they'd been living with." Over the next few days, the situation became even more complex. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy, not with weapons or demands, but with requests. Species that had been oppressed by larger empires wanted Guardian protection. Worlds that had been strip-mined by corporate interests wanted someone who would defend their rights to their own resources. Jake found himself holding meetings in the station's conference room with leaders representing hundreds of worlds and billions of beings. It was overwhelming, but Sen remained at his side, offering guidance and support. "I can't govern the galaxy," Jake told Sen during one of their private moments. "I don't know the first thing about running an interstellar civilization." "You do not need to run anything," Sen replied. "You need only to continue being yourself. The values you have shown, compassion and fairness, and the desire to help others, these are what people are drawn to." "But what happens when I make a mistake? What happens when I make a decision that hurts people instead of helping them?" Sen's blue eyes seemed to smile. "Then you will learn from the mistake and do better next time. That is what my creators did. That is what makes a true leader." The solution Jake eventually developed was simpler than anyone expected. Instead of creating a traditional government, he established what became known as the Guardian Accords. Any species or world that wanted Guardian protection could request it, but they had to prove their commitment to the same values that had awakened Sen in the first place. "Protection isn't something you can buy or demand," Jake explained during the first formal accord ceremony. "It's something you earn by showing that you're willing to protect others." The Accords created a new kind of galactic civilization. Instead of empires based on conquest or councils based on political maneuvering, it was a network of worlds bound together by shared values. Species that had been enemies for centuries found common ground in their desire to protect the weak and innocent. Commander Varex became one of Jake's most trusted advisors, using his military experience to help newly awakened Guardian installations defend vulnerable worlds. The former hegemon officer had thrown himself into his new role with the passion of someone trying to make up for past mistakes. "How do you do it?" Varex asked Jake one day, as they watched Guardian ships departing to protect a refugee convoy. "How do you make it look so easy to know the right thing to do?" Jake laughed. "It's not easy at all. Half the time I'm terrified I'm going to make the wrong choice, and people will suffer because of it." "But you make the choices anyway." "Someone has to," Jake replied, "and Sen says I have good instincts, so I try to trust them." The Galactic Council eventually recognized the new reality, though Ambassador Thane continued to view the Guardian Alliance with suspicion. Earth's government was initially overwhelmed by suddenly having one of their citizens become a major galactic figure, but they adapted quickly to their new role as humanity's representatives in interstellar politics. The most satisfying moment for Jake came 6 months after Sen's awakening, when Corvin visited the station with news from his homeworld. "The Guardian ships arrived last week," the old Vortani reported with joy in his large yellow eyes. "They are helping us rebuild our cities and restore our damaged ecosystems. For the first time in 50 years, my people have hope for the future." "That's what Guardians are supposed to do," Jake said, watching through the station's windows as Sen worked with a team of engineers to repair a damaged freighter. "Protect people and help them build better lives." "The children ask about you," Corvin added. "They want to know about the human mechanic who awakened their protector." Jake smiled. "Tell them I'm just someone who believes broken things can be fixed if you care enough to try." As the months passed, Jake remained on Frontier Station 47, still working as a mechanic but now with Sen as his permanent partner. They had become the galaxy's premier problem solvers, fixing not just machines but entire civilizations that had lost their way. The station itself had grown into a major hub of interstellar commerce and diplomacy. What had once been a rundown trading post was now home to embassies from dozens of worlds and the headquarters of the Guardian Alliance. But in his workshop, surrounded by the familiar tools of his trade, Jake was still the same person who had agreed to fix a broken machine for a desperate alien trader. He still talked to the devices he worked on, still applied human creativity to alien problems, and still believed that most things could be repaired if someone cared enough to try. "Do you ever regret it?" Sen asked him one evening as they watched, ships coming and going from the station's docking bays. "Do you ever wish you had just walked away that day when Corvin brought me to you?" Jake considered the question seriously. His life had become infinitely more complicated and stressful. He had responsibilities he had never wanted and influence he had never sought. But when he looked at the ships carrying Guardian protectors to endangered worlds, when he read reports of species learning to cooperate instead of fighting, when he saw the hope in the eyes of beings who had finally found someone willing to defend them, he knew his answer. "No," Jake said finally. "I don't regret it. I think this is what I was meant to do all along. I just needed to find the right broken thing to fix." Sen's blue eyes glowed brighter, and Jake could swear the ancient Guardian was smiling. Together they had shown the galaxy that the strongest bonds weren't forged through force, but through friendship, respect, and the simple human belief that everyone deserved a chance to be better than they were. The galaxy was still full of problems that needed solving and broken things that needed fixing. But now, for the first time in millions of years, there were Guardians and humans working together to make sure that the strong protected the weak, and that no one had to face the darkness alone.